Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Jennifer. Excuse me. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Thank you for asking. Hi, Denny's. Shout out to Denny's. I'm doing well. How are you doing? I'm doing shout outs, so write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Have a great night, Jennifer. Thank you for stopping by. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Yalda. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Joshua. Shout out to, excuse me, Hearts. Shout out to Nancy. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Mana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Florence. Shout out to Patty. Leave a like if you enjoy my live streams. I hope we can get to 100 likes. Shout out to Oswin. Shout out to Lala. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Winter. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Juliana. Shout out to Reed. Shout out to Maya. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Elise. Shout out to June. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Carolyn. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Mariana. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Sari. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Jenny. Shout out to Jace or JC. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Rex. Shout out to DJ. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. Shout out to Riza. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Anaya. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Hyra. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Foster. Shout out to Vivian. Shout out to Jen. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Alexa. Shout out to Ivy. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Ivy or Evie. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jake. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. Shout out to Donna. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Sammy. Shout out to Sarita. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to King. Shout out to Farah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. May. Oh no, I missed the last part. Shout out to Evangeline. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Lena. Shout out to Beckham. Shout out to Jessie. Oh no, oh yeah, I spelled it right. Shout out to Louise. Shout out to Say. Shout out to Gianna. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Forrest. Shout out to Alila. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Arumi. Shout out to Scott Hoing. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Yolanda. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Jelani. Or Jelani, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Argo. Shout out to Aralise. Thank you for showing me how to pronounce your name. Shout out to Esteban. Shout out to Liam. Shout out to Elijah. Shout out to Zamir. Shout out to Daylin. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Farrer. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Just. Shout out to Jolie. Shout out to Victor. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Danya or Dana. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Derek. Shout out to Sua. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Athea. Shout out to Devin. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sarai. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Cami. Shout out to Carolyn. Shout out to Gara. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to George. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Also check out my channel. I post other content as well. Shout out to Tayliana. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Cece. Shout out to Dayanara. Shout out to Zizi. Shout out to Miael. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Nagato. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jesslyn. Shout out to Ariadne. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to James. Shout out to Leona. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Terrence. Shout out to these people. Leave a like. I hope we can get to 100 likes. Thank you for being here. On to the next page. Shout out to Hannah May. Shout out to I. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kawi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aspen. Shout out to Roxy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Anaya. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Angela. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Bella. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Fatima. Shout out to Kekin. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kawi. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lenny. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Brandon. Shout out to Big Boy. Shout out to Oswin. Shout out to Lemon. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Harper. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Kimberly. Shout out to Brent. Shout out to Gabriella. Oh my goodness, I spelled it wrong. Shout out to Gabriella. Shout out to Hampter. Shout out to Jeffy. Shout out to Samuel. Shout out to Emery. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Yuri. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to Lunar. Shout out to Christina. Shout out to River. Shout out to Dominic. Shout out to Amari. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Blakely. Shout out to Silas. Shout out to Oscar. Shout out to Liana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Zena. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Aria. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Adalea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Oops, Adalea. Adalea, did I spell it right? I think so. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Carson. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Allie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Oscar. Shout out to Braylon. Shout out to Alize. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Naira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Deshawn. Shout out to Cami. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Crystal. We're almost at 100 likes. Shout out to Eliana. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 100. Shout out to Francielli. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Zayon. Oopsie. Shout out to Destiny. Shout out to Janelle. Shout out to Antonia. We're almost at 100 likes, only one more like. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Sally. Thank you for 100 likes. We did it. Shout out to Kamakani. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Zion. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Zion. Shout out to Yuki. Shout out to Ona. Shout out to Angelica. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Malaysia. Shout out to Sammy. Shout out to Anna. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Florence. Shout out to Ratash. Shout out to Mokiro. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Ella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Killian. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Doe. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Melody. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Elijah. Shout out to Zoe. Mukiro, I got you right here. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Shout out to Sylvia. Shout out to Stacy. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Umaisa. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Brisa. Shout out to Sophia. Was it Sophia? Yeah. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, if you enjoy the shout outs. Thank you so much for being here. Also check out my channel. I post other content. I hope you can support by either liking or subscribing or both. I would truly appreciate it. Shout out to Tap. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Priyal. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Dylan. Oops, Dylan. Shout out to Aranza. Shout out to Jacqueline. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Junior. Shout out to Samantha. Samantha, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Bianca. Shout out to Reed. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Jenny. Shout out to Danielle. Oh no, Daniel, sorry. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Erin. Shout out to Bowie. Or Bowie, sorry. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Mara or Mara. Shout out to Nicola. Shout out to Monica. Shout out to Thea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Kelton. Shout out to Kathy. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Lupe. Shout out to Jolie. Shout out to Evangeline. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Janelle. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Amaria. Shout out to Fernanda. Shout out to Lyra. Shout out to Juan. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Ivan. Shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Stephanie. Oh, how do you spell Stephanie? Oh, there we go. Shout out to Maisha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Deshawn. Shout out to Medad. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Keslin. Shout out to Alessia. Shout out to Tootsie. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Charlie. Whoopsie. Charlie. Shout out to, was it Mackie? Shout out to Cassie. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Priscilla. Shout out to Anvika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Deepika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Oliver. Shout out to Mackenzie. Oh, so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Azar. Shout out to Sailor. Shout out to Yaretsi. Shout out to Ainara. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Ziara. Shout out to Penelope. Shout out to Fern. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Sonam. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Hallie Mae. Shout out to Ronnie. We're almost at 200 likes. Leave a like. Shout out to Vianney. Or Vianney. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Alize. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Camila. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Axel. Shout out to Malachi. Shout out to Faust. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. We're almost at 200 likes. Leave a like if you're enjoying the shout outs. Shout out to Argo. Shout out to Yaireth. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Candy. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Riva. Shout out to Shout out to Jawad. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Omar. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Ahana. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Katana. Only 11 more likes until we get to 200 likes. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Yotam. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Emmett. Shout out to Rafa. Shout out to Malena. Shout out to Cersei. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mazid. Shout out to Silas. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Anushka. Shout out to Maisha. Shout out to Lilac. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Elma. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to these people. Thank you for 200 likes. On to the next page. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out and give some of the videos a like. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Hudson. Shout out to Romeo. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Alejandra. Shout out to Silas. Ava. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Queen. Shout out to Osana. Shout out to Darius. Shout out to Mariana. Shout out to Fulton. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Bianca. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Arlette. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Lindsay. Shout out to Zaria. Shout out to Tamika. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kalis. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Juice. Thank you for subscribing. Subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Leonie. Shout out to Kava. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Steak. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Miguel. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Samar. Shout out to Mia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Cindy. Shout out to Rosie. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Chex. Shout out to Riddy. Shout out to Kyla. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Zanab. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Livy. Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Moon. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Breath. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Melis, sorry. Shout out to Cami. Shout out to Benel. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Benel. Shout out to Benja. Shout out to Caleb. Shout out to Johnny. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Leonie. Excuse me. Shout out to Damien. Shout out to Jonathan. Whoops. I spelled Damien wrong. Shout out to Damien. There we go. Shout out to Zarly. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Rico. Shout out to Melanie. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Lucas. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Sifil. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mohammed. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Mohammed. Shout out to Jackie. Shout out to Tracy. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Cora. Shout out to Kamari. Shout out to Star. Shout out to Xander. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Manon. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Mr. Big Whale. Shout out to Merida. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Jensen. Shout out to Vicky. Leave a like. Let's try to get to 250 likes. We're almost there. Leave a like. We're almost at 250. Shout out to Melodia. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Esther. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Thanos. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Reika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to Roberto. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Jojo. Shout out to Gigi. Leave a like. We're almost at 250 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Sage. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Gerard. Shout out to Sedna. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Eugene. Shout out to Tracy. Shout out to David. Shout out to Sherlyn. Shout out to Lalisa. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Jacaden. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe so you know when I live stream. I'll live stream tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to write your name. Please subscribe so you know when I live stream. Have a great day or have a great night. Take care. Bye.